classes, and in inventory valuation we have completed first three components. So today we'll be starting with the methods of inventory valuation. Although you see we have three methods coming in our course, so we'll be taking up these methods one by one in the coming classes. All right. So before we take up the methods given in the course, let us first see how many methods are there actually. So these three are there in the course, but otherwise you see, when we talk about inventory valuation methods, there are two basic categories. One is cost based methods and another is selling price based methods. Now within the cost, again we have two categories of the methods. One is the historical cost based methods, another is other costs. Like when we buy inventories, then the price that we pay to get them, to buy them, is called the historical cost or purchase price. Why so? Because this is what has happened. You purchased the price and you bought the goods. So this is the historical cost, right? Whereas we may have certain other cost concepts. You might have studied these concepts in your economics also, like replacement cost, current cost, standard cost, etc. So we have these methods also for the inventory valuation. In some specific cases, accounting standards guides us to follow these methods. So let us first know the names. Under historical cost based methods, we have four main techniques: specific identification method, FIFO, LIFO, and WAVE method. These are the short forms. FIFO is first in, first out, LIFO is last in, first out, and WAVE is weighted average method. Now, the last three we'll be studying in detail, but let me give you a small idea about specific identification method. Right now, at this point, I hope you understand the relevance of the methods, because in the last video I explained you that we have a flow of costs. So we have various methods to identify the cost specific to the closing stock and to the unit sold. So accordingly we have the methods. Now under specific identification method, what actually happens is that we have to identify the lot against which we are having the closing stock and the lot which is there being sold. For example, if you see you have purchased say 100 units, say at a price of 5 rupees. You purchased another lot of say 700 units at a price of say 6 rupees. Now at the end of the period, you went to your stores and you found that only 200 units are left. So what should be the cost of those 200 units? Now if you can identify the stocks, that you look at the 200 units and then you can identify that yes, out of these 200 units, 50 units are from this lot and 150 units are from this lot. In that case, you can identify them. So you will follow specific identification method. So your closing stock, you will be writing 50 units for 5 rupees and 150 units of 6 rupees, isn't it? So this is specific identification method, but this method is not practical as such. When we are having a huge lot of inventories being involved and various lots purchased so frequently, you cannot actually identify the stocks with their lots. So we have to follow some other technique where we can just use the cost concept and then we can find out the cost of inventories and cost of goods sold. So for that matter, the methods have been designed: FIFO, LIFO, and WAVE. Now other costs are the cost which is not historical cost. Like on the basis of the standard procedures, you may say that usually when we buy these stocks, this is the cost at which these should be purchased. So that is standard cost. Another can be replacement cost. If you want to replace these inventories with the similar kind of inventories, then what will be the cost involved? Then current cost is how much price is there for the inventories right now. So the current purchase price of the inventories will be the other technique of valuing these inventories. However, these methods are not advised by accounting standards to be applied in most of the conditions. So most generic methods are FIFO, LIFO, and WAVE. Then under selling price based methods also we have adjusted selling price and net realizable value method. So I'll just give you a fair idea about this. Like adjusted selling price basically implies that you have certain gross profit rate, as a rule. You know that on your sales you make 20% of gross profit, say. So if your product is having a selling price of say 100 rupees, it means its cost is 80 rupees. So you will simply measure the inventories at 80 rupees on the basis of adjusted selling price. Another is net realizable value method, which is usually applicable when the price of the inventories is lesser, or when you have the outdated or defective units which will not fetch the good price. So you will value them at net realizable price, which is selling price minus expenses to be incurred to realize that price. Like you have say some defective pieces lying in your stores, and you know that you can sell them at say 50 rupees each. But in order to make that sale happen, you will have to get them repaired at 5 rupees each. So their realizable value is 45, isn't it? Because in order to make that sale of 50 rupees, you will have to incur 5 rupees of cost. So the amount that you will be realizing is 45. So inventory should be measured at that price. However, in detail, we'll be covering only these three methods as given in your course. So starting with FIFO approach, that is first in and first out. Now, before I take up the definition and the procedure, let us just ponder on the uh, method first. First in. In implies stock is coming into. So the first purchase. In means purchase. First out. Out is there when your stock moves out. You make sales or you issue inventories. Like in case of a trading concern, you will be having sales. But in case of a manufacturing concern, your raw materials will be uh, issued to the manufacturing unit. So there you will be having stocks issues, right? So the stock which is moving out, that is stock being issued. So system says the stock which has come first, that should move out first. So it has nothing to do with the actual stock being moving out, because we will not be in a position to identify the lots. But for valuation, we are just following this approach that we assume that the stock which has been acquired first will be sold first. All right. So you will assume the stock which is acquired first will be sold first. Okay, so this method is based on the assumption that stock has been acquired first, will be issued first. So which implies that inventories sold will be from the initial lots, because you are saying the stock which is purchased first should be sold first. So if you have purchased first lot of 9 rupees, then this lot must be sold, assumed to be sold first. And your closing inventories will obviously from the latest lots, right? So in a way, your closing stock is measured at current cost, and your stocks sold or issued are measured at the previous or old costs. Let us understand this with one example. Now you have 500 units of 10 rupees. This is what you purchased first. Okay, so you purchased these 500 units at 10 rupees. This is your first lot. Then you purchased another lot of 700 units. All right, that is at 11 rupees. Now, this is the flow of these stocks. That is, you have 500 units at 10 and then 700 at 11. So this is first and the 700 unit lot is second. So your sale is say 800 units. So if you are selling 800 units, then it should be from the initial lots. When you look at initial lots, your first lot is of 500. So out of this 800, we can say that 500 units will be from the first lot, and you still have a gap of 300 units. So for that sale of 300 units, you will be utilizing second lot. So in a way, cost of goods sold is 500 units, that is first lot fully used for sale, and then only you will be using the next lot. So in a way, your cost of goods sold is 8,300 rupees. Now coming to closing stock. So how much stock is left? Now you can easily see here in the problem. Your first lot is completely finished, isn't it? Your 500 rupees of lot is completely finished, and out of this second lot of 700 units, you have sold 300 units. So you are left with only 400 units. So you can say that your closing stock is 400 units, and that is from this lot of 11 rupees. So 400 units at 11. Although in order to determine closing stock, you can apply the formula opening stock plus all purchases minus closing stock. But when we are following a flow of inventories, then it is better and easy to follow the flow, right? So from the flow itself, we know that 500 is vanished. Out of 700 units, 300 units have been sold, so 400 is automatically left. So closing stock should be measured at 400 into 11 rather than going into the complete formula, isn't it? So now we can extend this to the some bigger problems. Now let us see this in illustration. Now you have 1 lakh units available at 15 rupees per unit. So this is your first lot, isn't it? 1 lakh units of 15 rupees. Then you purchased 2 lakh units at the price of 14.25. Then you purchased another 3 lakh units at the price of 15.5 rupees, isn't it? So these are the three lots, and you can see that cost price is different in all cases. That is why we have the methods. Now at the end of the month, the inventories are found to be 1,30,000 units. So this is a physical system taking place because we are not given the sales. We are just given the closing inventory. So how will we determine the closing inventory? Now, as per the FIFO approach, initial lots are sold first. So your sales will be from the first lot and then second lot, and then your third lot will be used if the need be. And your inventory should be from the latest lots because the latest lot will be left. So when you are to value this inventory, then first of all, it should be from the latest lot, that is of 1 lakh units of 15.15. Now herein you have 1 lakh units. It means your closing stock cannot be fully from this lot. It's not fully there. So you need additional 30,000 units, isn't it? So in order to get that 30,000 units, now you will move into next lot. So out of this lot, we can say out of this 2 lakh rupee units, 30,000 units are left in the closing stock. That way only we'll make up the total closing stock of 30,000 units, isn't it? So 1 lakh from the latest and 30,000 from the other. And if we want to find out the cost of goods sold, then again logically we know that only these lots are left. 1 lakh from third lot and 30,000 units from second lot, which means your first lot is fully utilized, it is fully sold, and from the second lot 1,70,000 units must have been sold. This is the basic assumption of periodic system. If something is not available in the stores, it must have been sold. So your cost of goods sold will be 1 lakh units at the rate of 15, isn't it? This is your cost of goods sold, and here in the second lot you will be having, in the second lot you will be having 1,70,000 units at the rate of 14.25 because 30 are left, isn't it? Once we know the cost of goods sold, profit and loss can be measured. We are given the prices. So now I am explaining this. So closing stock, as we explained earlier, it is 1 lakh units at the rate of 15.15, then 30,000 units at the rate of 14.25. That gives you closing stock of 19,42,500. Cost of goods sold can be determined by the formula that we all know, that is opening stock plus purchases, right? So you can determine this with this formula, but I will advise, rather than applying this formula, go with the logical sequence because that is there with us. So your closing stock will be just determine, sorry, cost of goods sold will be just determine the units being sold. So you are selling 2,70,000 units, so units are to be sold from the initial lots. So first of all you will be you will be using your first lot, 1 lakh units, and then for the remaining 2,70,000 units, because your total sale is of 2,70,000 units, so 1 lakh is the first lot, and then remaining 1,70,000 units will be taken from this second lot, which is completely in conformity with the closing stock that we have determined. 30,000 units were left, so 1,70,000 were sold. You can directly apply this also rather than calculating units sold. So cost of goods sold is this much. Now we are given the selling price also. Sales are given. So gross profit will be sales minus cost of goods sold, and then net profit will be gross profit minus indirect cost. So this is how we can solve a question. Now we can extend it to further questions wherein we have a whole lot of information available. Let us see this problem. This is again a periodic problem because we are given only the track of purchases. Sales are not given. Now you see you have inventory of 1100 units at the rate of 60 rupees per unit. Then you have purchases. You purchase goods at 7 different times during the year at varying prices. Then you have closing stock of 2500 units left with you. This is your closing stock, right? So you are to measure the value of closing stock and cost of goods sold. Now, if closing stock is of 2500 units, it must be from the latest lot. This is the assumption of FIFO, isn't it? Now, before we take up this, let me just give a rough idea of another method also, LIFO. LIFO will say last in first out. It will say the quantity which is acquired last must be sold first. So in that case, you will first be selling these 1800 units, then 2400 rupees of lot, then 2000, then 1500. Likewise, you will be selling them, and your opening stock will be from the initial lots, isn't it? Anyhow, now coming to FIFO approach, okay, this method. So this stock must be from the latest lots. So your latest lot is of 1800 units. So this can be there in the stores as per the assumption. Your opening lots are sold. So latest lot is of 1800. It is fully there with you because you have 2500 units. So you still have a gap of 700 units. So it must be there from this lot. So we can say that in closing stock, this lot is fully left with us, and out of this 700 units are left with us. So our closing stock will be measured at 1800 units at the rate of 69 and 700 units at the rate of 65. Whereas for the cost of goods sold, we'll be having this lot fully sold, this lot fully sold, this is fully sold, this is fully sold, this lot is fully sold, and herein in this case, since you are left with 700 units, it means out of this lot you must have sold 1700 units, isn't it? This is what we can assume from the question as per the FIFO approach. So you can directly calculate cost of goods sold and closing stock. Although for cost of goods sold, you can apply the formula that you have studied in your 11th and 12th standard. Opening stock, which is of 1100 units. Okay, we forgot this. This is also sold, right? So your opening stock plus all purchases. These are all purchases. Then minus closing stock that you will be measuring here, right? So you can apply that formula. Now let us see the working of this system. So this is our question here, right? This is our question. We have recorded opening stock also because opening stock is a part of your total inventories. So your closing stock is 1800 units at 69 plus 700 units at 65, as I explained you. So this is your closing stock. Now coming to cost of goods sold. So from the flow of inventories, we know that opening stock was sold. Then you had this lot fully finished, next lot fully finished. So these lots are fully finished. Your last lot was left, and out of this 700 units were left. It means in this lot we have sold 1700 units. So your cost of goods sold can be taken directly, or you can take up opening stock plus purchases. So if we apply this formula, then opening stock is 1100 units at the rate of 60. All purchases will now be counted here, and then you will be having cost of goods sold. Or otherwise, we can calculate units sold and then we can measure cost of goods sold. Although, there is no need to calculate units sold as such. Reason being that we can directly take the units from the flow of inventories, isn't it? We know the overall flow of the inventories. This is the flow of inventories, and if out of this flow of inventories, we know that this much stock is left, so remaining must have been sold. So you can calculate cost of goods sold directly. Now, this is a problem based on perpetual system. So till now we were having periodic system. Now let us see how this system works under perpetual system. Now, what will be the problem here? That under perpetual system, inventory purchase and sale is recorded as and when it happens in the store's register. So every time you have a purchase or a sale, you will have to assign a value, and you will be updating your store's register to find out the balance. So with each purchase, your store register will be updated. With each sale, your store's register will be adjusted. So everything will be adjusted, and each time you have a sale, you will be applying FIFO approach to find out the value of the inventories. Okay, now here in the selling price is given to be 40 rupees, which means we will be using cost based method because cost is lesser. Let us see the working of this system. Now initially we have opening balance with us, isn't it? The very first thing that we have is opening balance of 1000 units at the rate of 30. So we can directly enter opening balance of 1000 units at the rate of 30 rupees. Now next is purchase. Now when you purchase, now you are to record the balance. Now you can see you have two lots, 30 rupees and 35 rupees. So since we are following the approach that first acquired units must be sold first, it means we need to remember the flow of inventories. So while writing the balance, we will not club everything, because we need to know the flow. We need to know which lot came first, which lot came next. So you need to record it as it is. So while recording the balance here, we'll record first lot, and then we'll record the next lot that we have acquired. So this lot that you have acquired, this lot of 500 units, it will be coming here after the first lot. So when you apply FIFO approach, you know that first lot is of 1000 units, and then the second lot will be used. Now the next is purchase of 900 units at the price of 32. So another purchase. Now when you enter this, okay, so again a third lot is received. So now you can understand how will we record the balance. So initially we have two lots, they will come as it is, and then this third lot will follow. So we won't club it, we want information in the order. And suppose this lot was purchased at, say, not at 32, but say this lot was purchased at, say, 30 rupees. Even in that case, you see, you will not club it, even if it is 30. And you may say that we have a, say, lot of 30 rupees coming here, but still it will not be clubbed because its order is different. It is coming third in the order, and we need to follow the order. Order is first in, first out. So we need to know which lot came first, which lot came next. So the order must be maintained while recording the balance. Okay, and anytime stock balance can be calculated by totaling up the lots. Now next is sale of 1200 units. Now we'll have to see how to price this sale. So what is the cost of these units? Since you have 1200 units being sold here, so in order to sell these units, you need to use first lot now, isn't it? First in, first out. So when you look at the lot, your first lot is of 1000 units. So out of 1200 units, you can say 1000 units are from the first lot. So that will be written. But still your sale is not complete. You still have a gap of 200 units. So in order to fill that gap of 200 units, you will be utilizing the next lot. So for the remaining balance, this 500 units will be used. So your next 200 units that you are to sell, they will be from this lot, isn't it? So next will be 200 units from the second lot. So how much will be the balance? Now when we look at the balances here, at the lots here, so what we can find out is that this first lot is completely finished, Out of this second lot, 200 units are sold. So 300 units of this lot and 900 units of next lot are left. So this is how the balancing will be done. And at this time, if somebody asks you, what is your closing in 100 units of 35 and 900 units of 32? So you can highlight this if somebody wants to ask about the closing inventories, right? Now, what is your next transaction? Next is again sale of 500 units. Now, in order to make that sale of 500 units, the first method will say utilize first lot first. So you will not say that since we are having say a second lot sufficient to make this sale happen, why not make it from there? No, your method is very objective. It simply says follow the approach. Okay, so your 500 units will be first sold from the first lot, but this is of 300 units only. So in order to fill the gap of remaining 200 units, you will be utilizing next lot. So first lot will be finished and then we will move to the next lot. So that brings us to the balance of 700 units at the rate of 32. Next transaction is purchase 400 units at the rate of 35. Now this is the next lot. So for purchases there is not a problem because every purchase will be coming as a next lot. So purchases, they will just be ordered in the balancing. So you have 700 units lot, the next lot purchase will be coming as it is. So while recording purchases there is not a problem, they will just be following the lot. Every new purchase will come as the next lot, isn't it? And for making sales, follow FIFO approach. Had it been LIFO sale, now when you are selling these 500 units, had it been say LIFO, okay, then what will it imply? If you have a LIFO method coming here, so then last in first out, that is your last lot of 900 units will be utilized, isn't it? Okay, so now let us see the next thing. What is our next transaction? Next transaction is again sale. So you are selling 500 units. So which lot will be used? FIFO method says first in first out, which means that you will be utilizing first lot here. So your lot is sufficient for this. So 500 units are from the lot of 32. And what is left? Your first lot is still left here. So 200 units are left therein and next lot is completely there with us. So this is our closing stock. So at the end of this stock ledger, you can highlight this and you can write alongside closing stock. Okay, now we can total up the columns. Now the total of the purchases, stock-ins will give you total of purchases and you can verify the totals with your purchase account. That is why we say that this method will help us in management of the stocks. So if you have 1800 units coming into your stores, you can see that you have purchased this much or not. By comparing stock in dates with the dates of purchases, you can compare time taken to get the purchases into the stores. Stock out is 2200 units, so you can check your sales invoices. Have you sold 2200 units during the year or not? So you can manage your inventories, right? So this is how we can prepare the stores ledger. I have not written here, but on the top of this statement we'll be writing stores ledger for the period January to June. Okay, so cost of goods sold is that we can take up cost of goods sold. We can simply total up the column and this will be the cost of goods sold. All right. Okay, so under perpetual system, our answers or report can be like this. Closing inventory is 600 units. Closing inventory in rupees 20,400. Cost of goods sold is 69,600 as we got from the total. And if we are to determine profit, profit is sales minus cost of goods sold. Now what will be the sale? Sale is at selling price. So we know that 2200 units were sold at a price of 40 rupees each. So we get profit of 18,100. Right. Now if the similar question is to be solved under periodic system, suppose your question says follow it under periodic system also. So what we'll be doing, we'll simply delete the sale items. Just ignore those sales because under periodic system we just keep track of purchases. So you take track of purchase invoices and then you can make the calculation. So this is how our question will be appearing. Now in this question, what we can do is, we can simply take up purchases. So we'll take up opening balance, we'll take up purchases, and then the next purchase, and then the next purchase. We don't need to have sales records for that. Okay, so you have 4 lots with you. Now closing stock you will have to determine, because although it's requiring us to make calculations under periodic system, but the system is perpetual. So what will be your closing stock? Your total purchases are here 1000 plus 500 plus 900 plus 400, and your sales are 2200 units, right? Can you get that? 1200 units, then 500, and then again 500 units being sold. So your closing inventories will be opening stock plus purchases minus units sold. It's in unit terms, so that gives us 600 units. Now FIFO method says first in first out. It means your inventory should be from the latest lots. Now when you look at the latest lots, what we find here is that we have the latest lot of 400 units, isn't it? So this lot will be fully there in our stores, but still we have a gap of 200 units here. So it means that the next 200 units will be recovered from this next lot of 32 rupees. So your closing stock will be 400 units of 35, the latest lot, and then 200 units next lot of 32 rupees. So this is your closing stock. Now regarding cost of goods sold, you can either apply the formula, that is opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. That is, take up all the information, write opening stock, write all purchases, then closing stock. But we should not do this much of calculation. We can do it easily. We know how many units are sold. You see, units left are there with you, isn't it? So if you know that these units are left, so you can easily identify how many units are sold. So your opening stock is fully sold. This second lot is fully sold. And in the third lot, we know that 200 units were left, isn't it? Out of this lot, 200 units were left. It means 700 units must have been sold. So it's quite logical. Just follow the pattern. Okay, so it is 1000 units, 500 units, and 700 units. Now profit can be determined again like this. So that brings us to the end of the periodic FIFO system. This is how your first in first out system works. Now under periodic and perpetual system, although in this question both methods are giving you same answer, but it may not be so, because the system is different, so answers may be different. So you should not be worried about the answers. You may get different answers under different methods. Now this is one more question for practicing. You can solve this question under periodic as well as perpetual system to see whether you have understood this or not. I have given you answers also. Closing stock, cost of goods sold, and profit is given. So just follow the method and see whether you are able to get it. In case of any doubts, you can reach to me through the comment section also, and I'll try to explain or clarify your doubts. Okay, now some theory. The FIFO method offers certain advantages. Number one is that it is in accordance with the good and efficient practice that management follows. Now, what is the practice? Usually, we tend to sell off the units purchased first, because we do not want to have outdated stock. We do not want to have deterioration or spoilage. You want to get rid of the stocks purchased first, isn't it? So this is in accordance with the good and efficient management practice. Second is, it's a very systematic and objective method. Systematic in the sense that you have put in a system that the stock which will come first will be sold first. The stocks which are coming later will be retained. So it's a system. And it is objective because nothing is left to the fancy of the store's recording person, the store's employee. It's not his choice to record the pricing. It is as per the system. So it is objective. It is free from personal bias. So objective here means freedom from the bias. Okay. So it's not that two persons making the same system will come up with the different results. They will be getting you same results. Now this method is simple to operate when price level changes are minimum, because you are just to follow the lots, isn't it? Now, as you measure closing inventories at recent purchases, are you understanding this? Closing inventory is being measured at recent purchases because your closing inventory is from the latest lots. So, the inventory value will reflect the current cost. That is, if you want to buy stocks now, what is the price? It will be the latest price, and that is what you have considered to measure the inventories. Now, this will take you to a drawback of this system also, because if your closing inventory is measured at current cost, it means cost of goods sold is measured at the outdated cost or old cost. Now, that will imply that matching is not there. Okay, we'll come to that. Now, this method eliminates opportunities for income manipulation. That is very right, because the system does not give you freedom to charge the cost as per your own requirement. The system requires you to charge the cost according to first in first out approach. So cost is assigned in the order in which the cost is incurred. So you cannot manipulate the records. Now the system follows price trends. Obviously, if the price is increasing, so obviously every initial lot being sold will be highly priced. So finally, there is no possibility of unrealized holding gains or losses. Now, this is a very important point here. Now, you are measuring your stock at the current cost. And if you happen to sell it, it will be sold at the current selling price. So, there is no holding gain. But if you say measure your closing inventories at say old cost, suppose your first lot was of 10 rupees, next lot of 11, next 12, and now with the rising prices, the price is 14 rupees. But if you measure the stocks at old cost, so your stock is of 10 rupees. Suppose the selling price is 18. It means you will be making a profit of 8 rupees per unit, isn't it? But as per current cost method, your cost is 14, price is 18, so your profit should be 4 rupees. So that 4 rupees of reserve that you have created in the inventories, your inventory is not showing the true value. Your inventory's value is say 10,000, but it should be 14,000 as per the current rates. So that 4,000 that you are showing lesser, it is actually implying that you are undervaluing your inventories and you are undervaluing your profits, because if your closing inventory is understated, your profit is also understated. So in a way, you are creating hidden reserve. That is, you are creating hidden profit. You only know that your inventory is worth 14,000 and you have a profit of 4,000 there. And whenever you will make the sale, that hidden profit will be realized. So in FIFO method, there is no such hidden profit or hidden gains, because you measure them at the latest cost, latest lots. Okay, so these are all the advantages that we have taken up. Now coming to the weaknesses of the system, it doesn't match the current cost of the goods with the current sales. If your prices are fluctuating a lot, in that case your profit will not be correct, because there is not a proper matching of cost and revenue. It's improper matching. Why do we say this? Because you are measuring cost of goods sold at old cost, isn't it? But this has to be there. One of the two things, closing stock and cost of goods sold. One of the two will have to be at the old cost, another has to be at the current cost. So we'll have to measure the benefits and drawbacks of the both, and accordingly we have to apply FIFO and LIFO. See, whatever weakness of FIFO is there, that will become the strength of LIFO, because therein the system works opposite. So we'll get to that later on anyway. So I hope this point is clear. It's not resulting in proper matching of cost. It results in improper matching, because you have current selling price but you have the cost which is old. Another is, this method becomes difficult to operate in case you have very frequent purchases. Suppose you purchase stocks in small lots and too often, then you will be having so many lots being purchased. So it will become difficult to follow the lots and calculate the prices of the inventories as well as cost of goods sold. So this becomes complex to operate. So this is a practical difficulty. Although now in the times of computerized working, this is no longer a difficulty, because you are to give the instructions to the system software and the software will start working accordingly. But manually, yes, it is difficult. Now different costs may be assigned to identical jobs in this system. So you might be having similar job being done at different costs. Have you ever seen this thing when you go to shop to buy something and you say that last time I bought this and then price was different. This time you are charging more, and the person will say prices बढ़ गए हैं sir, isn't it? Now why this happens? It is because of the system. Suppose you purchased first raw material lot at 10 rupees. You purchased next lot at 11 rupees and maybe next lot at 12 rupees. Now the stock which is being produced from the first lot will be having lesser price as compared to the stock which is being produced from the third lot. So even if you are asking for same quantity, price is going to be different. But anyhow, this is a practical part of this system. Now, during the times of rising prices, the system will result in inflated closing stock and gross profit. I hope you understand this. Now, when the prices are increasing, that is, you might be having, say, suppose your initial stock was of 10, okay, then you purchased another lot of 11, then you purchased another lot for 12.5, because this is what a rising prices trend implies. Maybe next lot is purchased at 14. Now how will you measure closing stock? Your closing stock will be at the highest lot, isn't it? It means your closing stock is inflated, and this inflation is not because you have more of closing stock, it is because you have more of the cost associated with them. So your closing stock is inflated, obviously your gross profit will also be inflated, because in case you remember, what is your gross profit? Gross profit is sales minus cost of goods sold. And if you remember, cost of goods sold is indirectly related with the closing stock. So if your closing stock is more, your cost of goods sold will be lesser, because cost of goods sold is now from the initial lots. So your cost of goods sold is going to be lesser, your closing stock is going to be higher, and your profit will also be higher, isn't it? And in times of falling prices, now just reverse this sequence. If the prices are falling, then the reverse will happen. That is, your closing stock will be lesser, your gross profit will be lesser, and your cost of goods sold will be more. Now you can understand this with this also. This is a very important implication of this system. Sometimes we are just asked a 2 marks question on this effect of FIFO on the profits and closing stock, right? Now when you calculate gross profit, which comes here, which is the excess of credit side over the debit side. Now you take up closing stock here. So if your closing stock is inflated, so will be the total, and so will be the balancing figure coming here, because if the total is more, balancing figure is going to be higher. So without doing anything, you are in a position to show higher profits, just because it's a FIFO method being followed under rising prices, and under falling results will be different when the deflationary times comes. Another is that effect on the opening stock. So your opening stock which you are carrying forward from the last year, that will be having the reverse effect, because opening stock is negatively related with the gross profit. So this is an important limitation of this system. I hope the whole system along with its advantages and weaknesses clear to you, and you can practice some more questions. Now in the times of rising or falling prices, this point must be taken care of. Then this method is difficult to operate in case of more frequent purchases of lots, as I have given you. It becomes very difficult to keep track of the stock issues and stock purchases, etc. So this method is suitable when the prices are fluctuating very less, and the items are ordinary. I mean, simple items are there which are interchangeable, and the price fluctuations are very little. Then this will result in proper matching, because ultimately what we are interested in is proper determination of profit or loss, because in a business we should show our profit or loss at a fair price. So proper matching of cost and revenue is necessary, and that is possible only when the prices are fluctuating very little. Okay, so this is applicable for ordinary items when there are very less fluctuations in the prices. I hope this thing is clear to you. So stay learning and practicing. Stay happy. Stay smiling. Thank you.